Welcome back to Social Media for News Organizations. I'm Dr. T, and I'm here to talk about the critical importance of ethics. I've actually heard people say we don't need journalists anymore because we have social media. That is absolute hogwash. The reason we need journalists is because they have ethics, and they have a code that they follow, and they're striving for fairness and accuracy. I don't think that you're being replaced. I think much more importantly, you need to use social media in a way as a journalist so that you can separate yourself out from the crowd. So what does make a journalist? It's not a license. We're not certified. You don't even necessarily have to go to J school or even college for that matter to be a journalist. But you do have to have some kind of ethics that you follow. So what we do is we verify information before passing it along. We've always done that. We've always verified stuff before we published it in a print newspaper. It's even more important on social media because it gets out there so fast. It gets retweeted so often, and potentially millions of people can see something that's false. So you have to make sure that you're very, very careful. People do turn to us for the truth. I've seen this over and over. When I was involved in some big breaking news, at KSL in Salt Lake City where I used to work, people waited or withheld judgment about what was going on until we put it out there, until we tweeted it, we put it on social media, because they knew we were careful and we wouldn't tweet something until we felt very, very confident that it was true. We do attribute information. Police say, officials say, multiple sources say, even in tweets. And I know you only have 140, now 280 characters to work with, but if it's something that you're getting from a source, you should say that right in the tweet. Journalists should have no access to grind. This is not your chance to get back at people. This is not your chance to attack people. Don't libel them. Don't slander them, even if you're using voice communications. Be very careful about what you're doing and what you're saying. And don't use this as a way to do ad hominem attacks on people either. This isn't your playground for taking people down. This is your chance to tell the truth and make sure that you're being fair about it. Don't come down on one side or the other. Present the facts, present the information, and let people choose and make the decisions for themselves. We don't accept favors for coverage. We don't market for a brand or a group. That's what separates a journalist from a marketer on social media. You don't retweet your friends who have a business. So your friend just opened up a little coffee shop and asked you, hey, can you tweet this for me? We don't do that as journalists. You can go review a coffee shop, but if it's your best friend's place, you need to disclose that. You need to let people know that you have this inherent bias. That's what ethics means. It means being very, very transparent, upfront about what you're doing so that you're not trying to market something for somebody. When I worked on social media for different organizations, I saw this quite a bit. Friends of mine who wanted to get a particular point of view out there were actually emailing me saying, hey, could you do this? Could your organization retweet me on this? Knowing that I was helping to run a specific account. It was always awkward, and I always made sure that I followed my ethics and didn't do that at all. Set up that standard. Set up that ethical standard for yourself and make sure that you're doing that. And then follow the standards that are set for an organization like Social News Network. Social media policies. Many news organizations do have some written in stone rules for social media use. I'd say most of them do at this point. Not everybody does. My take on it is that you should follow the same ethics policies that you do for everything else you do in your organization. You just apply it to social media. Many corporations have either stricter rules for ethics, so make sure that you know the ethical guidelines for any company you go work for so that you don't run afoul of their rules. If it's too restrictive, somebody makes a plan where they have a social media ethics guidelines plan, and it's too restrictive, like don't retweet others or don't share anything until we've had a chance to run it in 5 different platforms before you get it. You kind of defeat the purpose of social media by doing that, and you lose the benefits of this really fast, effective medium for getting news out there. But please follow those guidelines based on the company or organization that has hired you. If you have an issue with it, take it up with them. Talk to them about the need to have a responsive type social media presence. If you're too loose with your guidelines, though, you could have a loose cannon, so people won't see you as credible anymore. You could lose that credibility, lose that relationship of trust you have with your audience. We here at Social NN don't want to be too strict, but we also don't want loose cannons. So somewhere in between where you have specific policies, but not something so restrictive and so kind of behind the times that you can't respond on the fly to the things that are most important in the way of breaking news. So what is our policy at Social NN? Well, we're a news network, and we need to remember that. You're not just running this as yourself, you're one person. Now, in an earlier module, I told you that I wanted you to talk like you're talking to your friends, but with your boss standing over your shoulder. Well, the boss over your shoulder is saying, remember, this is still a news network. I'm allowing for a lot of creativity and a lot of fun. You should have a lot of fun with it. But at the same time, remember what you're doing. Our credibility has to be built up and earned. We don't have it just because we're part of the Murrow School, the Murrow College, or because you're a journalism student. We actually have to build that ourselves. We should always, at the end, strive to be absolutely fair. Give fair coverage to both sides. If somebody says one thing, then make sure that you get the opposite side. If you have a hard time figuring out what that opposite side is, let me know and we can talk about it. And we should be very careful with what we retweet and what we share. A lot of times you'll see people put in their bios on Twitter that a retweet does not equal an endorsement. That's all fine and good to say, but if you're constantly retweeting stuff from one political side, let's say it's pretty clear what your leanings are, and people are going to completely ignore that you put that in your profile. So just be careful about what you're doing, because I think people do see that as an endorsement if you're just retweeting one side of something, even if you say publicly that it's not an endorsement. We should seek out two credible sources before posting anything that's controversial. If there's something big, breaking news, or report of a famous person dying or something like that, before retweeting your source, even a relatively credible source, make sure that you have two of them before you go with it, especially when it's controversial like somebody being dead. When in doubt, post in the Facebook group and say, hey, everybody, I'm seeing this out there. Does anybody see another source for this? Use the crowd of our students to help you come up with the right answer. Or the crowd of other students not in our class. That's fine too. Before you post it up there publicly and potentially reach thousands or even millions of people. I always think it's possible that one of our tweets could be something that gets picked up by a big news organization and takes off. You never know, because they're just searching through Twitter. They don't necessarily even have to be following us to see this. So, killing rumors. Rumors do spread incredibly fast on social networks, and I think a lot of times the social networks themselves get blamed for all the rumors out there. In reality, it's people. There's people out there doing this. What I'm begging of you is that you really think about what you're doing before you spread something that could be just a rumor or an April Fool's prank or something like that. So be very careful about spreading rumors around. Journalists need to be there to help people and help them sort out what's true and what's not true. We're actually very valuable on social networks. With all those rumors out there, you should be the one who says nope and links to the Snoops.com report and says that's total BS. Verify and use trusted news sources and watch out for traps. By traps, I mean the kind of bogus story that was a reprint from The Onion, so it doesn't look like it's from The Onion anymore, that everybody's sharing, or police giving out bad information and spreading it around really, really fast. So be careful. Don't kill Joe Paterno before he's dead. By that, I mean Joe Paterno was the beleaguered coach of the Penn State football team who died. Before he died, though, the day before he died, the college newspaper in Pennsylvania tweeted that he was dead already when he wasn't dead yet. It got picked up by major networks, including CBS, who were just searching through keywords or following their Twitter account, and it got out in front of thousands or potentially millions of people. He did die the next day, but that's no solace for having something wrong and inaccurate. Use trusted news sources as you're going. Make sure that it's somebody that you feel confident is following ethical guidelines themselves, somebody who has gotten it right many times in the past, who is a big brand name. That doesn't mean that you can't necessarily pull from a smaller source, like a really good blog or something like that. Just be very careful with the information, because you never know what guidelines they're following, how careful they are about verifying things. Just use some caution. If a shaky source, by shaky I mean a smaller brand or blog or just somebody on Twitter, has kind of big news, look for that secondary source, please, before posting it. If ever in doubt, you can message me, or you can post on Facebook to ask for an opinion of either me or some of the other students. So what you're looking at here, a picture of a shark on a flooded highway, is a really crazy photo of a shark. And it looks like a great white shark, but I'm no marine biologist. I'm not positive what this is. Swimming through the street in Puerto Rico in an immediate aftermath of a hurricane. This photo was bouncing around Twitter as a social media editor. What would you do with this? Obviously, it's going to be a very, very popular thing to share on social media. So do you retweet it? Do you post it on your Facebook page? Do you post it on Instagram? Do you put it up in Snapchat? What do you do? Well, the answer should be that you're very, very careful, because as you can see, this is actually a photo pulled from a National Geographic. It's a pretty good Photoshop job to make it look like it's swimming through the street, but it isn't actually there, so be careful. All right, so that's it for the ethics lesson. Go ahead and take the quiz on Blackboard, and I'll be on here next time, so see you then.